Hi students, today I am going to teach you the next topic, that is classicism. So, classicism क्या होता है? Basically it means a principle. It means a principle, a character, or you can say some tendency. It demands the beauty of forms, good taste, restraint, and even clarity. Where in a literary composition, all these things are required in a literary composition. दूसरे शब्दों में, in other words, we can say that classicism is a literary attitude which insists upon a simple, or maybe you can say sublime theme, and some restrained play of imagination also. It also insists upon the clarity in meaning and even the beauty of the literary forms. As a principle of literary criticism, it is in favor of humanism, which is refined and restrained literature, which is actually keeping with the classical art, the best Greek and the Roman writers. And as a literary culture, classicism insists upon the classical model of life, and that classical model of life, students, is marked by good taste, restraint, then yes, chasteness, reason, and maybe some other points too. Now, to move further, classicism is a product of the ancient Greek and Roman writers. Ancient Greek and what is classicism? Classicism is a product of ancient Greek and Roman writers, and this appeared in England. Classicism कब देखने को मिला? It appeared in, मैं बना देता हूं यहां पे, it appeared in England during the flowering of the Renaissance. During the, यहां पे लिख देता हूं, flowering. During the flowering of the Renaissance, and date आपको पता ही है, 1578 to 1625, where a number of English writers translated into English many great works of Greek and Roman writers. And yes, in the second half of the 16th century, by 1579, many of the classics had been translated into English. मतलब जब तक हम 1579 तक पहुंचे हैं, न जाने कितने classics they have been translated into English. And the English writers were actually, amazed, mesmerized, surprised by the literary beauty of those works. Oh my God, such beauty, such language, such classics. And they considered them of first rate importance and worthy of imitation, कि ये वाकई में ये imitation करने योग्य है. And soon a school of classicism appeared in England. And you must also not forget, students, this school of classicism which appeared in England, was headed by अगर आपको नाम याद आ गया होगा तो no one else but Ben Jonson, the great literary classicist. But my dear students, the classicism of the school was drowned by the romantic exuberance of William Shakespeare. and his followers. Since 1630 to 1667, since 1630 to 1667, Milton kept the banner of classicism in his hand. And because he was a great classical writer, but during his life, अपने जिंदगी में, he could not form a great classical school. And Romanticism continued ruling over the minds of people in general. So this was something which is very important for you to know, students, as far as this heading is concerned, for your writing in answers, for your development of your scholarly feeling as a student of English, or as for the interviews also, because many questions are asked on this topic also. Then now what happened? Then in the late 17th century, now in the late 17th century, a movement for classicism arose. कहाँ पे? Arose in France. And in 1660, the restoration had taken place in England. Had taken place in England. Now you go back to the history of English literature and remember that Charles II, याद करिए क्या हुआ था? Charles II had been enthroned and Charles II was brought back from France क्योंकि वो फ्रांस में exile था. So with Charles II coming back, who came to England, the literary culture of France came into the consideration. And when classicism arose in France in the late 17th century, its waves naturally came to England or into England. And its ground was prepared in England by John Dryden. And then when the ground was prepared by John Dryden, it was nourished by John Locke's rationalism and his assertion of the political rights of the middle classes. Dryden translated great Greek and Roman writers into England verses, and gradually Dryden turned out a classical poet of great merits. And he died in 1700. So since 1688 to 1702, there was a transition period in English literature, and then in 1702 began the age of neoclassicism in England. इसीलिए 1702 में फिर एक नया एज शुरू हुआ जिसका नाम था neoclassicism in England. So आपको स्टूडेंट्स यहाँ पे ये क्लियर हो गया होगा कि what is classicism and what minute details has to be studied to understand this topic, classicism. So I have taken everything into consideration as far as classicism is concerned.